obviously, if they're toy guns at 11 o'clock at night.
You're live for finance.
All right. Sorry. Welcome everybody to our finance committee meeting. Today is June 17th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Brewer?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Farmer?
Here.
Mr. Michelson?
Here. Everybody's present. Look at that. Okay, so the first we have is to adopt this agenda. The agenda is written. There was an email from one of our members to add something on. Ms. Brewer, would you like to add that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think there's a lot of discussion to have on that before it gets to committee, but if you would like to have it, we can have the discussion now.
What was the item?
It was the item I emailed this morning about the graphic
I'm sorry.
designer for,
Yes.
yeah,
Sorry.
putting on contract.
So again, I feel there's a lot to discuss before it makes it onto the agenda and see what capabilities are and all that. But if you want to bring up the discussion on the agenda, we could. I feel that it's too young to do that. But again, if you'd like to, you remember, I'll put it on.
Yeah, I think having that initial discussion, we don't have to vote on anything, but at least getting it on the radar would be good.
Okay. All right, so therefore, as new business, we're going to add on the discussion regarding a graphic artist. I put forth a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendments. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, I put forth a motion to approve the council meeting, the finance minutes from our previous meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Does anybody have any corrections? Okay. It passes. You're gonna have to pass it down.
You have, sorry, I should have sent you yours too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it at the end, or do you want to slide them down? Up to you.
That's the whole wall.
Yeah, you find your minutes and then you'll send it to Chief. Chief will send it to David. Dave will send it to Mel. Mel's at.
It's just sign every page in there.
Yeah.
And you sign
Sign
it on the back again.
Plus in your credit card.
So
Metal financials get right.
All right, all those in favor of that, approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
All right, next we're gonna hear from Eric. Go fast. Let's hear about the.
Okay, I'll try and talk fast, but not too fast. I don't want to lose you. Okay. So I was thankfully able to get both April and May in. This was, I want to say, almost a miracle, but it was beautiful. Okay. For the month of April, fiscal year 24, the village had a combined bank balance of $3,087,445.80. Of this amount, $790,982.19 can be found in the village's primary checking accounts, and $673,482.35 can be found in the village's high-interest savings account. Remaining balance resides in other village dedicated funds. The village generated $86,983.60 in general fund income tax receipts. Rita collections are approximately on par with April from the previous year. That should be, say, period. No by almost. For the year, the village has collected $330,687.36 in general fund income tax receipts. This is about approximately 7% higher than year-to-date fiscal year 23. Again, it's just every year we see that there is an increase with Rita. Obviously, as we've spoken about inflation and salaries go up and all these things, maybe you could say that by 3% if we would see such an increase, but 7% increase is significant. Nothing to sneeze at. The village has received the first biannual disbursement of real estate taxes from the Hamilton County Auditor in the amount of $972,609.95. As for receipts, the village received $533,456.35 in general fund receipts. That included $419,746.02 from Hamilton County, $40,806.50 from the state of Ohio property tax allocation or rollback homestead. These are all they are all kind of grouped together from the state. You may see different references. It's the same thing. The number is $429,667.37 more than April fiscal year 23. Again, this is just due to the late reception of the real estate taxes from the county and state. So it was just delayed. It's off by a month. But if you juxtapose month to month, it would be approximately on par, indeed a little bit more, a little bit greater. The Star Ohio Fund earned $7,152.44. The higher interest Fifth Third Savings Account earned $1,722.90 in interest. Top 5 payees for the month were Atleta Construction. Again, that's Hamel, yet, and payroll, DPS, Rumpke Container, and Ohio Police and Fire. Total Village General Fund appropriation spent for the month was in the amount of $187,251.81. This figure is $37,869.01 less than April fiscal year 23, significantly due to not paying for the clerk's salary and benefits. Again, this is just, when you start comparing month to month, it seems like there's much, there are big differences, obviously. I mean, that's one of the bigger causes. Additional costs related to the strategic plan were also incurred in April fiscal year 23, which did not repeat in 2024. So a lot of them were billed in the same month. I think we saw that was the case. And so those bills, even though that was accruing over time, were significant. But again, that was last year. The village had 24 outstanding payments that total $21,907.47. The village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spend and make any adjustments deemed necessary. So that is April. May is much more exciting. And yes. So for the month of May, fiscal year 24, the village had a combined bank balance of $3,367,365.82. Of this amount, $241,584.22 can be found in the village's primary checking account, and $1,492,749.71, right? $1,492,749.71 can be found in the village's high interest savings account. That's not the Star Fund. That's the Fifth Third Savings Account. That's awesome. That is just awesome.
What's the biggest factor for that?
Kudos to the police department for the $250,000 we've received so far for the EMA ARPA grant, which we finally saw the entirety of 2023 and quarter 1 of 24 deposited in. Very, very excited all at once. It was
What's
just
the
like,
ARPA grant? Could you remind me?
so yeah. I'm happy to, I'm always excited to talk about this.
I'll defer to you.
So there was a recruitment grant that,
Yes, okay.
that our dear Chief Campbell saw, and he and I worked on together, but really much due to the diligence and insistence of Chief Campbell that we really need to get on board with this grant. We were able to apply, and we were approved for the recruitment of 2 officers when we were down 2. And essentially, it was a reimbursement for the salary, benefits, et cetera, pensions for those 2 officers. It took a long time to figure out, both from the EMA's own rubric of what they wanted to see, that may have changed a couple of times over the last year and a half. But we got clear what they were looking for. There were some just inconsistencies with what they were asking and what we were providing, not because there was anything missing. It was just I wasn't so clear on that. So once we got that all cleared up, they started to approve these one after the other, and it just all came basically in May. So really, really exciting. But that's, again, that was only a part of that. The other thing, if you look in April, so the April Fifth Third bank account balance was higher. That's because we can only transfer $200,000 a day. And we received the money from the county so late in the month that again, it's per business day, so we could only do so much at the end of the month. So that was really inflated in April, and now it's back to where it should be, around $250,000. So that's why, but stay tuned, it's more exciting news. So the village generated $129,715.74 in general fund income tax. Rita collections, again, approximately on par with May of the previous year. For the year, the village has collected $460,403.10 in general fund income taxes, about 5% higher than year-to-date fiscal year 23. Again, this is good, not as good as where we were last month, but still solid. The village has received, as we mentioned, the first biannual disbursement of real estate taxes from Hamilton County Auditor in the amount of $972,609.95. We mentioned that already. That's, again, in the homestead rollback funds from the state, so that total of 972 and the homestead rollback funds, I realize I wrote that a little bit confusing. The total of those two is $1,095,883.83. It's not the common, it's not $2 million, it's $1 million. As for receipts, the village received $237,477.27 in general fund receipts. This number is $18,380.64 more than fiscal year 23. Again, that's just late reception of the homestead rollback funds or allocation from the state. That was all, like I said, it was the end of the month of April. So now this was the beginning of the month of May when we got all those. So the Star Ohio Fund earned $7,404.26. The high interest Fifth Third savings account earned $6,261.36 in interest. Again, massive increase from previous month. Top 5 pays for the month: payroll, DPS, Jefferson Health Plan, Rumpke Container, and Ohio Police and Fire. The total village general fund appropriation spent for the month was the amount of $188,326.22. This is about $780.16 more than fiscal year 23. Again, those are the numbers that we want to see consistent. The village had 15 outstanding payments that totaled $7,074.80. Village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spend and make any adjustments deemed necessary.
Eric, apologies if you corrected this in one of them and I'm forgetting, but we had talked earlier in the year about the property taxes and the expectation that what the village was going to get was a decrease.
Yes, no, so that was incorrect.
Okay.
The county actually owns that. I spoke to, her name is Kim Connors, and she recently replaced Tammy Disk, who was at the county. And
Yep.
I had sent back to her like, hey, can you just explain to me like why we're seeing such a significant decrease? And she looked at it and she said, I'm so sorry, that was my mistake. Your numbers are not like, it ends up being an increase. It's like $40,000 or something like that total,
Okay, great.
which is nice. But yeah, no, I mean, we're not worried about those kinds of deficits next year, which is really, really exciting.
Perfect.
So thank you for the question. I'm sorry I didn't follow up with that.
You may have, and I just didn't.
Eric, the money that came in, it went into the police,
So that the conditions of the grant are that it has to replace it has to reimburse the money where it came from. So the positions which are hired we are using the police levy for that, and then we are reimbursed for that. So it goes into the police levy where it came from. Yeah. So that's all coded and that's very clear what that money is. So it shouldn't be it won't inflate general fund. That's why it doesn't look like the general fund did all that well. But when you look at how much money actually came in, there's a significant increase in the Fifth Third savings account.
and interest.
And interest, I mean, that interest, like that's just incredible.
Okay, thank you, Eric, for your report. Tax budget for 2025, usually we do it twice a year, no?
Tax budget, you would do one time, and then we would do the appropriations in November. I'm sorry, can I ask for a quick bio break? I apologize. It's
No, obviously, we want you to
I'm,
work in inhumane conditions.
You'll talk
Take
to
care.
me too much of that stuff.
Take care. You do not need to run also. Hey, David, I think we also needed to add in the ordinances that moved to finance. I think there was just one to the agenda. I was just realizing that.
Yes. So now that our main voice is not here, when it comes to finance. Well,
You don't want to answer all the questions, David?
Okay, so now let's skip to, until Eric comes back, let's start discussion of our new business. That will be jumping to, Ms. Brewer's memo that you sent out today.
So the memo that I sent around today for those in the room is the request for a for about a 2-month stipend to be able to to be able to enter into a contract with a graphic designer to contract for about 20 hours a month for 2 months and then have a reevaluation. The background for this is that the Community Engagement Committee, also in partnership with the Recreation Committee, as well as for the broader use of the village, there is a lot of there is a significant increase in communications that we are trying to make with the residents and the public at large. And a lot of this is being done through various channels of the website and social media and print, and trying to evaluate what is most economical for all of these avenues, and what it comes to, so that we can get things to the people that they are requesting. And one thing that takes up a significant amount of time, and that we should also be paying somebody who is an expert in this field, is that of putting graphics together that will catch the eye of people that it needs to catch. And so that is everything from making sure that we have like Facebook events online for people to go and follow so that they can know when council meetings or committee meetings are. All of these events that we are planning all throughout the summer, whether it's movie night or a field day, or all of the things that we'll talk about in committee, all of those require work behind the scenes before it is ready to be posted. And a lot of that time is taken up by getting the graphics down. And so what I am asking for, as with my community engagement chair hat on, is that we recommend to council the approval of entering into a contract with a Gulf Manor resident who has done work for us previously, Jacqueline Threadgill, for services related to graphic design, social media content, and other forms of marketing and communication as to be determined. Her range is $45 to $65. If we are at her high end of $65 an hour for 20 hours a month, it is $1,300 a month for 2 months that we are asking for. And then after that 2-month trial period, we are then able to assess and determine whether or not it makes sense to move forward with a longer term contract.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a lot to be discussed about this before. I think that we could pass, and the questions will be as follows. I don't know if we should go through it now. I think it should be discussed. First of all, where's the money going to come from? Do we have proper RFPs in place? Are we putting out there to find? And once it's a government position, we have to be able to open it to the public. We can't just leave it to one person.
Mm-hmm.
What's the range in the salary that we're talking about here? If it's a known person, it should be a set salary. Why is it jumping like that? I feel there's a lot more discussion that has to happen beforehand with the administration to see if there is room for where the money's come from, if there's room for such a position, or could we give it over to someone that it's already hired from in the village, it's already getting a salary, so they go ahead and take care of the graphics and all that. I think that's all that has to be discussed. Right here, I don't think that's the proper place to discuss all of that, because there's a lot of homework that has to be done into those questions that I just mentioned. That's my feeling. I'd like to hear if anybody else has anything else to say on that.
I think those are valid things that need to be figured out. Just kind of nailing down a lot of the specifics and what that would look like, just that we have more information on what to go off of. And just some of the things David brought up with other good things.
So what would the discussion be had though, if it's not in the committee?
Well, we have to do homework beforehand to see, and then we can come up with a plan. And then we could present, we're gonna go get money from here, and move money around this way, we're gonna do it like that. Then we can discuss and see if that makes sense with the idea. Like this is a step before that.
Yeah, since there are specific questions, if you want, just respond back to that email with those questions, and I'll do the research for them in time for the next committee meeting.
certainly will. That was my plan. I just didn't get to it today. It's
That's fair.
been a crazy day. It's still a crazy day. Back to you, Eric. Tax budget.
Yeah, in our remaining time, we have, so you should have in front of you, or you have access to a copy of the 2025 tax budget. So the big items to pay attention to, of course, is that it is total revenues looking at about 2.873, $2,873,000. Total expenditures are expected to be higher than that. And the big item to focus on there would be the capital outlay, which if you eliminate the capital outlay, I mean, it's about a $60,000 dip into the reserve. The biggest items there are infrastructure improvements, which basically that's what the argument could certainly be made that that's what the reserve is for, is to improve the air. Again, this depends largely on what we can accomplish in this year. This is assuming moving forward with the stage 2 of the HVAC system, which will allow us to actually set the temperature in this room, and the purchase and demolition of any other properties that the village may see as strategic. A lot of those are grant funded. You'll notice in the intergovernmental line item towards the top, it's $435,000. That's assuming that most of that will be covered. That's why the numbers are inflated, closer to 3 million rather than where we generally operate around 2.4. But again, those big items would be, moving different. I think the police department is looking to expand into the mezzanine level. That was a significant line item that's coming out of capital outlay, and the HVAC system. So those are really the major items to look at. Everything else, I really did try to limit any expansion, any increase in cost. There are certain things that we just can't avoid. There are certain fees that we now have to pay because, even though technically we're not making all that much more, on income tax, property taxes, but every time we have an increase on that, the fire levy, that all goes towards fire services, but the fees that are associated, those end up getting picked up by the general fund. So that is a little bit more of an increase this year. Same thing with the general fund in general. But again, just looking from year to year, the increase in cost, generally speaking, I tried to keep as low as possible, understanding that there are certain salary increases that have to happen, especially in the police department, and just other general costs that it's as they say, the cost of doing business.
So Eric, you were saying those costs though are in your projection for next year, correct?
Which one?
That's why, like the capital outlay expenses, that's why it's 500,000 for next year.
Correct. That includes, meaning that includes all internal improvements and infrastructure.
Right.
That also includes the purchase and demolition of properties that would be covered by grants.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reduced those costs, so it wouldn't balance the budget, it would just reduce those revenues as well.
Right. But if I'm looking at this correctly, and I'd love if you could add a net to the bottom of this first page.
Add a net, like a net change?
Like a net, because what I'm doing the mental math for right now is
Right.
total revenue minus total expenses to verify that what I believe is correct, we're running in the reserve each of the last 2 years, we're projected into the reserve this year, and then we'd be projected into the reserve next year, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, if you could put a net on those at the bottom, that would be just super helpful for me to for all of us to get a clear picture of,
What was the actual net change
what
per
is the
year?
net change, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
Absolutely. And again, this is something I've spoken about with Charlotte a few times. The actual change, we certainly hope will not be that significant. We hope that we won't go into the reserve.
Right.
But we are always very conservative about what we think the income taxes are gonna be. We always underestimate that.
Right.
We never wanna overestimate that, and then our budget is too close and we miss it, and it's actually $100,000 in the hole. It's more, let's project for $100,000 change, and then if in the end it ends up being 40, so we did our job well.
Mhm. Yeah, totally hear you on that. It's just, I think it's important to understand, we've been negative the last 2 years, projected to be about 95 in my head math for this year, and then we're projected to be negative next year. It's a trend we cannot sustain, so I just want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely, no, 100%. And again, the last two columns are both estimates.
Yep.
Meaning they're both
Totally
concerned, and in the actual, the only actual negative was from 22 to 23, which was a $5,000 change. If you go to the bottom of the first page where it says unencumbered, undesignated, 1231, it goes from 1,014,000 to 1,009,000.
Okay.
So that was the actual change in the end. Now, we always project a bigger negative. I think that year the projected change was about 75,000.
Okay.
So again, you're asking the right questions. I'm just saying I wouldn't want to be alarmed by that because we are being conservative in our expected revenues.
I hear you and I appreciate that. If we could just do the net, and then that way it would help us keep an easier track on that without raising all the alarm bells for everybody.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Okay, the next was a discussion regarding the remaining ARPA funds. Distribution, do you have information on that?
I mean, it's about $161,000 is the total fund balance that has been updated in the system, and it's just waiting for whatever project council decides. I probably Ron would have had more to say about that, but again,
We also want to know what could it be used for, and what type of.
Public resilience
So it is-
items, I believe, is like the main category.
So we had moved it out of finance committee and onto full council.
That was just a leftover from a previous week.
It might have been, yeah.
Okay.
We did that a couple months ago. So there's an agenda memo that is a part of the overall council meeting. Under department reports and agenda notes, there is one that says agenda memo ARPA funds 5/20/2024 that has all of the links for program guidelines, eligible expenses, and what the rules are. And then from there.
So if that moved on to full council, I put forth a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you want to, you did not read the next meeting?
Oh, our next finance committee meeting is on July 8th, and I'll be speaking for a full hour straight. See you then.
Who was the second by? I'm sorry.
Brittany can have it.
All right, I gotta go. Apologize.
Thanks, David.
Okay, so we need to elect a mayor pro tem to be able to conduct the meeting.
Unfortunately, you can't do that without a quorum.
We have a forum.
We do.
There's 3 of us, and there's 5 council members.
There's 5 active council members, so we.
Well, I'm sorry, no, there's 4
There's
active
4
council
active
members.
council
Yeah.
members.
My understanding is it's based on the 6 council members that would,
But we don't have 6 elected
I
council
understand.
members.
I don't think you can elect the others without having 4 out of what would be 6.
So Minna's position automatically takes place the moment that this meeting takes place. Like, it doesn't wait on a swearing in, that's in the charter. And
You know where
then,
in the charter that is?
But Minna's not here.
Is she here?
I apologize, that is
so,
having spoken in depth, and I apologize, I'm a little out of my element.
it's
Having
okay.
spoken in depth with Rob, my understanding is with only 3, we do not have a quorum.
Well, we can at least open the meeting and have conversation. There's a lot of public here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
So the,
You can't, you can't call the meeting to order without a quorum. No, I'm just saying.
Hi, sorry, you reminded me to kill the finances. Sorry, that's extra.